How is second declension different from first declension? And why are there two of them? Stick around as we unpack this double trouble declension. Salve omnes, I'm Jordan Kay, a Latin tutor, teacher, and medalist with a mission to make Latin fun. Because I believe it really is. Now today's video is a little bit shorter because I'm building off the basics of Latin nouns and declensions that I talked about on my last episode. So if you haven't seen my first declension breakdown, start there before you try to tackle second declension. Trust me, if you already know how to do one declension, it makes it easier to do them all, so I kept all the basics in one video. Speaking of, let's go ahead and pull up our notes from last video to get started. Last time, we learned the three-step process to change the ending on any noun. And that's important to know because the endings of Latin nouns determine their jobs. That spelling on the ending can change if it's the subject of the sentence, the one doing the verb, or the direct object of the sentence, the one being verbed. And that can change your sentence drastically, both if you're trying to write it or if you're trying to translate it. So these three steps are really good to memorize. The first step is figuring out which declension your noun belongs to. Second, you remove the genitive singular ending to find your stem. And once you have a stem without any ending, you can go to step 3 and put on a new ending from your shiny new declension. It's as simple as that. Now, do you remember how you can tell which declension a noun belongs to? Yet again, the genitive singular helps you find that. So let's take a quick refresher on what a genitive is. If we look at our labeled noun from last video, you can see that every noun comes with 3 parts: the nominative singular, the genitive singular, and the gender. The genitive singular, that second part, is the most important when it comes to finding the declension the word belongs to and finding your stem. When we look at a declension box, we have all of our cases, nominative through ablative, labeled for us, along with our number, singular and plural, as columns. So I need to look at my genitive singular ending, that second box there, to see if it matches the ending on my genitive singular noun, the second part of my noun. Let's look at an example word like Leia, Leai, feminine. Here I can see that the AE on my genitive singular matches the AE genitive singular ending in my first declension box. That means that Leia, Leai is a first declension word, and she can use any of the endings in there, completely free. Once you unlock that chest, you can use any toy in the box. But let's bring Leia over to second declension now. When we look at these new endings, us, I, o, I, orum, is, os, is, they have a different set of rules to play. In order to unlock this chest, you need to unlock the genitive singular long I. And if we look at Leia, Leai, feminine, she does not match that chest lock. The AE and long I do not match, so she cannot use any of these endings. If I tried to force it anyway, making like Leorum or Leo, to a Roman ear, those would be complete nonsense words. So that's why it's important that you keep a noun in the declension it belongs to. So let's go ahead and practice with a word that can actually get in. Like Lucas, Luki, masculine. Can this word use second declension endings? Let's go ahead and check. I need to look at my genitive singular, that's the second part, and see if the ending matches my genitive singular ending in second declension. And sure enough, the long I of Luki matches the long I of my genitive singular ending. So Lucas, Luki is a match. Now, you might not have the same vocabulary that I do. However, Lucas was a very popular name in Roman times, so you actually might have Lucas, Luki. But if you don't, I guarantee you have other vocab words that follow the same pattern of us, I, masculine. If you can find one in your vocab list that goes us, e masculine, go ahead and write it down so you can play along for the rest of this section. Now you might have a couple that go e neuter, but don't worry about those right now. I will get to them. I warned you, double trouble. But we're gonna start with us e masculine. Now all I have to do is find the stem of Lucas, Lukey, masculine, and I can make Luke any part of the sentence I want. So to find the stem, I just take my genitive singular part, Lukey, and drop my genitive singular ending, long I, to get the stem Luke. Then I can add any ending I want and create some crazy sentences. But before I get into that, I have a quick problem for you to try on your own. You might recognize this word, Marius, Marii, masculine, from some of my past episodes because I love Mario. But can you create the stem for Marius, Marii, masculine so we can use the rest of these second declension endings? How would you go about finding it? Well, hopefully you just dropped that genitive singular ending from your second part. Marii minus long I gives us Mari. And now we have two stems we can play with, Luke blank and Mari blank. And if you're playing along with your own vocab word, you probably have a third one as well. Now that we have our two stems, we can make these words any part of the sentence we want. For example, if I wanted to make the sentence, Toad frightened Mario, all I have to do is put the right ending on my word, Marty. In the sentence, Toad frightened Mario, Mario is being frightened. He's being verbed, and that makes him my accusative or direct object. So I know I'm using one of those endings. And Toad is only frightening one Mario here, so that gives me the accusative singular ending, Martium. Here's another one. Obi-Wan gave the lightsaber to Luke. In that sentence, Luke is being given something. He's being given the direct object. That makes him the indirect object or the dative. So Luke's gonna be using one of those two endings right there. And he's only given the lightsaber to one Luke, not a couple. So we're gonna use dative singular to give Luke the ending O, Luco. And in case you're wondering, yeah, I made up a word for lightsaber in Latin. Someone had to. And it's that simple. If you could follow along with those two exercises, you can make any second declension noun work with any second declension ending. It works just like first declension. I told you it wouldn't be too hard. At the end of the first declension episode, I taught you a game to play with a coin and a die. I gave the full rules over there, but I suggest that you play again with a second declension noun from your list. Remember, when you roll the die, that chooses your case. When you flip the coin, that chooses your number. So for example, if I rolled a 2 and flipped a heads, I would be working with nominative genitive case in the singular. So Luke in the genitive singular case would be Lukey, and then I have to come up with an English sentence that could use it. For example, R2-D2 is the droid of Luke. And there you have it. Even if you play this game for just 5 or 10 minutes with a couple of your vocab words, all of a sudden second declension won't be scary anymore because you'll get a lot of practice with all of the different cases. Now, if you had any words on your vocab list that went e neuter instead of us e masculine, we're about to dive into what makes them a little different. But if you don't have any of those words, you can feel free to stop here. Your curriculum probably covers neuter nouns at a different point. But neuter nouns are important and they follow a weird set of rules. But don't worry, I have some tricks up my short sleeves to make this easy. So let's go ahead and dive into the world of neuter nouns. I told you that the gender of your Latin nouns would matter eventually, and you're already to the first time. It does matter if a noun is neuter or masculine or feminine. Now, Latin uses gender in a weird way. That little letter that tells you if it's masculine, feminine, or neuter is not actually trying to tell you the gender of the noun that you're looking at. For example, later on you'll see that even words like table have a gender next to it, even though a table is clearly a genderless object. Instead, the terms masculine, feminine, and neuter really divide your words into 3 different categories of grammar rules. And whichever one is next to your word, that's the set of grammar rules that they use. At the level of Latin that you are likely at, masculine and feminine typically share the same rules. Right now, they definitely share the same endings. You already have masculine and feminine words in your vocabulary lists right now. And if you have masculine and feminine first declension words, or masculine and feminine second declension words, you've seen that they're easily able to use the same endings. But neuter nouns do not share endings with masculine or feminine nouns. It is a clear divide. But neuter really wants to use the same endings, I can tell. I think it's like neuter nouns have a really bad peanut allergy. And even though they really want to eat the same food that the masculine and feminine words are eating, they can't. Masculine and feminine can use any endings they want. They can eat anything they want. Neuter nouns, if they eat a peanut, they're gonna die. So they have to flag down the waiter and ask for their meal to be changed in the slightest way possible so that it can be close to what masculine and feminine are using, but not quite. So for example, you can see the second declension that our masculine and feminine words are using. And the neuter nouns, they have to follow their set of dietary restrictions, also known as the neuter law. I'd write this down. The neuter law says that in a neuter set of declension endings, the nominative and the accusative must match. And in the plural, both the nominative and the accusative have to end in A. So if we look back here at our second declension endings, what our masculine and feminine words are eating, you can see that this doesn't meet their dietary restrictions. Nominative and accusative are clearly different, and neither one of them end in A in the plural. So neuter nouns are going to change this to create a new declension called second declension neuter. I'll make the changes in red for you. Boom! So as you can see, they didn't change a lot. They just switched out the peanut butter for sunflower seed spread and changed us to so that the nominative and accusative would match. And in the plural, they made sure it ended in A by just switching it to the letter A. This is a small change, but it makes a big difference when we're translating, because anytime we're dealing with the nominative or accusative with a neuter noun, it's likely going to use a different ending. For example, let's take an example sentence with one of our neuter words, oppidum, oppidi, neuter. In case you're wondering, I know this word is neuter for 2 reasons. One, its nominative singular shows a UM. That shows up in second declension neuter, not second declension masculine feminine. And second, but most importantly, it has an N or little neuter symbol at the end of the vocabulary word. People like to ask me if I have a trick for remembering masculine feminine words versus neuter words. And it's the same trick that I have been preaching since the beginning, and that is practice all 3 parts of your vocabulary words, because all 3 matter. So let's go ahead and make a sentence with oppidum, oppidi. I know that Belle likes to walk around her quaint provincial town saying that she lives in a small town. And if she wanted to say that in Latin, Belle lives in a small town, what ending do I need to put on oppidum, oppidi? Well, I need to use my stem, oppid, and then since Belle lives in the town, in is a preposition, which means town is my object of the preposition, or oblative, and she's only living in one town, so I'm going to use my oblative singular, which gives me oppido. Now, good news, that is the same ending as masculine feminine. Remember, they don't change all of them. This must be the chocolate part of the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. It gets to stay the same. So for that, it's pretty easy to translate. But let's look at one a little bit trickier. Maybe one about Captain America. Captain America saved many towns. Now, in this sentence, the towns are being saved. They're being verbed. That makes them my direct object or accusative. And it says he is saving many towns, not just one, so I'm going to use my accusative plural ending of a to get opida. This is where things get a little bit confusing, because this does translate correctly. Captain America saved many towns. And if you know your second declension neuter endings, it's clear that an A is plural. But let's pretend that you didn't create this sentence. Instead, you found it. You just found it in your book and you need to translate it. And you looked at opida and very quickly go, A, I know where A's come from, first declension. And you pull up the wrong declension box and you start translating the sentence as if opida is your subject and the town is doing the saving. But also, Captain America's the subject doing the saving, and nothing's being saved, and the whole sentence crumbles before your eyes. This is why it's important to know which declension your vocabulary words belong to, so that when you see opida, you don't just think opida equals town. You think opida equals oppidum, oppid, neuter, second declension neuter. Go ahead and try playing that coin and dice game one more time, and this time throw in a neuter noun and see if you can spot when you can use your normal masculine feminine endings and when you need to substitute it for a dietary-friendly neuter ending. And there you have it. Now you can add second declension to your belt. And if you want to keep going, more power to you. I have videos about third, fourth, and fifth declension, so go ahead and click those so that you can keep moving forward. And if you want to practice second declension, both masculine, feminine, and neuter a little bit more, I have my super fun custom worksheets in the description that I love putting together for you guys. So you can go ahead and download them there. I hope I see you more around the channel. Volete omnes!